Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly podcast session. We're here in the studio, as always. Myself, Chris Wall, and colleague Ricky Stoddart. How are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, fine.
A few days. Manic in it at a minute.
It's intense, mate. Yeah.
If I apologise to everyone if I sound a bit dead because I literally quite feel it. So
I think that's just you, mate.
it's 4 a.m. start, so grating on me this week a bit.
Yeah. Obviously, it's we say it every week. It's a bit of a cliche, but there literally is never a dull moment in this industry. Part of it, why we love it, and then part of it, why we're aging quite quickly. So yeah. But yeah, we're going to get straight into it. This week's topic, a very contentious one. One that I know both of us got a lot to talk about on subject. In a word, Tategoi. Take it away.
Nice one, Chris. Do you want to let it just fester for a bit and get me blood racing?
Well, I
around?
can feel the heat radiating from your head right now. So yeah, obviously, I mean, for those that perhaps aren't familiar with the term, break it down for us.
Oh, you want me to do it? Christ, because it's an hard one to actually define this.
Well, I mean, it seems there's a bit of interpretation to it from different people's who speak to different people about it. I mean, in its easiest concept, it's my understanding of it is to keep. Along those lines.
So if you really rip it down to what it really is, it is just a word the Japanese use for the fish that they're keeping.
Yeah.
I think that's what everyone needs to get into their heads first and foremost, because how it has been used, don't get me wrong, my first understanding of the word and the whole thing was tied in around a load of emotion. It's sort of like a romance thing of Tategoi, this dream that you buy.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. Which then, I mean, yeah, when you're in a fish house in Japan, it's quite a frustrating one because some breeders keep everything in the same fish house. That being Tategoi, a pond of fish they've selected as, in their opinion, being the best fish. Knowing their own fish, their own lineage, the ones that are likely to improve and become better in the next season. When you're in there, generally that pond of fish stands out an absolute mile to everything else. So obviously it's the first one you're going to be drawn towards. And then the general answer is, are these for sale? No, Tategoi. And anybody sensible knows it's not really worth trying to have any more of a conversation.
You're going to pay through the nose, even if you can prize them away.
Because at that point, you're literally buying their dream. Interesting story on this one. I've ever taken you to Suzuki?
I think we drove there once, but he wasn't there.
So little Deutz Gosanki specialist breeds some nice Goromo as well and Wagoi type shower. And as they often do, small farm like that, all his Tategoi are kept in a little blue tank above one of the ponds on some wooden planks with some pond water recirculating up through it. That's how they're housed until they get to the mud pond. And this tank of fish this particular year was just mesmerising, as they often are. And when you sort of buy into that, the Tosai dream, that is the Tosai dream turned up to maximum. And
checkbook.
Yeah, when you see a tank of a breeder's Tategoi like that, it's just it. But all that's defining is it's obviously it's a cut a level above what else is in the fish house. But anyway, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try get my hands on some.
Were you thinking sort of smaller breeder might be a bit more open to?
No. I was just completely. You know what it's like normally. Small Tosai Deutz Gosanki at that kind of level, they draw you in. I'll suck a punch really, but there's ways and means when you can get them. It's a case of trying to convince them. So this is it, and it's not just if I walked in there and said, "Are these for sale?" No, Tategoi, and the conversation would end there. Because there's an issue here that in a breeder's head, not only is it something I really want to grow this, whatever it is, but he's thinking of future potential value of them as well, which you don't want to lose. That being a big part of it for a lot of them. So when you bear that in mind, what they're worried about often through Japanese culture, wanting to be polite and not offend people, is that, you ask, they have to say no. Somebody might take that the wrong way. Or sometimes you'll ask, they'll just quote a crazy high price. or they might actually believe that, you know, if they were to offer, unquote, the price would be too high, or they might have just considered that the whole thing's a waste of time, quite frankly. So, wanting them, I went about it. I actually made him an offer for all tank, which was at the extreme end of the scale.
Not like you.
No. And it was based on, you know, roughly knowing what his 2-year-old fish sell for. And, yeah, he said no, obviously, but it was a starting point. We were negotiating then. So at that point, he liked the price I offered, but literally the response to buying the whole tank was, what am I going to do for the summer? No, I don't lie, that was the guy's response. What am I going to do all summer? Yeah. The whole thing of going to, obviously the dream of them fish for him, going to his pond, checking them every day, feeding them. It's life. I was literally robbing him of his life. And
I kind of love that though.
Yeah, well, I couldn't do it, could I, at that point? Yeah. Jesus. But we were negotiating at that point, and in the end I managed to price 10 away. So, yeah. I think I ended up with about 2 good fish out of him, which is normally how it goes. But that by the by, you know, that's what those fish meant to that breed. You know, it's he's bred them, he's produced them. They were his dream of what they could become. Yeah. This wasn't financially motivated in any way. No. The offer I made him for that whole tank would have made sense because numbers-wise, knowing the max price he gets for his fish and his averages, it was a far better deal to take the money and run.
And no risk.
No risk. But that was just never going to cut it. So that's what you're dealing with these sorts of fish at a small farm like that as well. So yeah, that's to me, that's what they've always been. You know, you see these with Tosai more than anything as well. On this side, you see these Tategoi. It's the dream. When you understand the fish, it's even more so because you're looking at that and you buy into that dream. It's like, yeah, that could do that. Well, the percentages that actually do is a whole different topic.
It's the dream, isn't it?
As well,
that some turn into a nightmare.
But the absolute crux of that word, like you say, a breeder's doing a selection. The minute he keeps it, it's Tategoi. Yeah. The minute he rejects it, it's Tatishta.
I think people are wrapped up in the Tategoi word, meaning it has to be high quality. I think you could probably argue that at any point on a farm, a lot of fish were Tategoi at one point.
This is all the arguments to it, and the angle to where we're getting at here is when this gets used as a sales mechanism, because my God, it makes my piss boil. Because I cannot stand to see, you know, people using that word who don't truly understand it or use it to try and falsely advertise a fish or, you know, lead someone into getting something that they're actually not.
So let's play devil's advocate. Those fish that you purchase from Suzuki, the 10 pieces, they were Tategoi.
Yeah.
Are you saying the moment that they're purchased, they're no longer Tategoi?
Well, this is how subjective it is.
I'm being a bit of a dick.
They were Tategoi at the point of doing it, but then he sold them to me. So am I keeping them or selling them? Well, they're my Tategoi or they're my Tatishta. Because it's mine, is that any different to his? This is how you can just play around and manipulate that scenario, and that's where, to me, really, it's a word that I don't think it's that relevant.
I think, that's the ironic thing.
And here's the other angles to it. So we've got different levels of breeders. Yeah, so like you've already said, what them 100 pieces of Tosai Tategoi are in autumn is 90 pieces of Tatishta and 10 pieces of Tategoi, more than likely. That's where that goes. So that's what you're buying. You're just hoping that through the Tosai dream, that one you buy becomes one of that 10 fish in the autumn, and then the following year, the 5 fish of those 10 or the 3 fish of those 10 that goes on. You know, maybe it does something in the end. It's just not how it is. It's such a game to play. But the biggest one, and this is the way I look at it that really gets me, levels of breeders, Tategoi. So I buy, we're going to use Dainichi here as an example, the fish I buy from Dainichi in the auctions are Tatishta. They've been rejected.
Yep, ready for sale. Yeah.
Absolutely been rejected by Dainichi. Seem to have some technical errors. The Tatishta. So what Dainichi is keeping, nobody's getting it. That is just, they go to such extents to hide those fish, you just wouldn't believe. I'm talking, fish houses that nobody knows exists.
Yeah.
That's just how precious they want to keep them away, because to someone like Dainichi, you could be harbouring a future champion that could literally sell for
you don't want that doing the rounds and people taking pictures.
Hundreds of thousands of pounds at the right time. So that's a big part of their game. But yeah, so those Tatishita at Dainichi, I would argue, are better than the Tategoi at some small, farm type breeder. So where do you draw the line there? Is my auction fish that I bought inferior to? I'm just thinking of example. Hasegawa just come to mind. We're on Kohaku. So his best, or his Tategoi pond, I would argue, is probably inferior to a Dainichi Tatishita pond, especially the auction level stuff. So it's just, the word is just flawed in so many ways.
I know. Like back in the day, it was really abused, that term.
It's got better.
Yeah, I think it has, but you do still see it being branded around. What
got me here
is it? Is it, how poor on a scale practice is it for dealers to actively use that term, in your opinion?
It just shouldn't. It's pointless anyway, because from a consumer perspective, and this is what I'd always advise you, ignore the words, look at the fish. That's the most important thing, because another bit that comes in as well, people use the word and don't actually truly understand the real meaning of what it's all about. They use it on fish that just have some sumi to develop, for example. Because it was based and sort of educated as being a word around fish with potential. Just because a Showa's got some sumi to develop, or a Shiro's got some sumi to develop, doesn't make it Tategoi. We know that, but that's just a fish that's got pigment to come up, pigment to change. It's a natural part of the process. It's not what the whole Tategoi thing is about. The Tategoi is finding true, real high level quality and potential that, yes, will become better in future.
Do you think dealers that use this terminology incorrectly, it's a lack of understanding on their behalf, or a marketing tool, or do you? Because I'd like to think that people are being genuine, or are they just out of their depth a little bit? I don't know. I mean,
that's maybe one element, and that if that's not the case, then there's some I've seen. For example, I've seen some fish advertised, a couple of frequent offenders.
Sure.
Tategoi this, and the fish are 2 years old on 695 retail. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Absolutely not a chance. I cannot think of a breeder that I would visit that would, and bearing in mind that's obviously got shipping in, there's markup, all the rest of it, that where I could actually physically go myself, pay cash on the day in Japanese yen, and get a 2-year-old Tategoi for 695 quid. I can't think of one. Even the worst breeder I can think of right now, it's not going to happen.
Well, the sum of all their efforts for the year to give away a fish. That they wanted to keep. And you've managed to prize it away from them. Which they're obviously going to try and charge. I mean, that's the classic thing, isn't it? Like when you're trying to select Tosai and, the Tategoi gets thrown at you, not for sale. Even if a breeder entertain the idea, you're going to be paying the prices that they would want as a 2-year-old or 3-year-old anyway.
But I've done it with a customer who was in Japan many years ago. He was a really nice guy he was there with one of my dealers, and it was just his dream to have a real high level Tosai growing in mud pond. So I went to a farm where I knew I could make it happen. I had to put some pressure on still, but I literally knew what was coming. And that fish, I think, as a 30 cm Tosai, was about £3,500 without any shipping or VAT added at that point. That's the kind of one you're playing with.
Yeah. But you when you actually break it down, you can understand breeder's perspective. What if that fish ends up being a 15 grand fish?
And
they've sold it for...
That's exactly what we're buying in. That's the trap.
But I don't think, equally, that fish could be 500 quid.
No.
In years to come.
No. So this is the bit where really you got to understand when this word's banded around. You know, if you're seeing it, say in the market, £695 at 2 years old, not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. It's just a load of bollocks, and you're being fobbed off. So yeah, it's a great.
What I'm getting at is the Tategoi doesn't guarantee anything.
Oh no, sorry, that's a very good point.
So what I'm saying is that fish that you're purchasing with potential doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to come to fruition.
Well, do you know what happens?
But you're going to pay the price that they're going to want if things happen the way they want them to.
That fish that was, believe me, the potential everybody saw in it, made the breeder, it's a lineage that I know like the back of my hand. Everything about that fish was like, yeah, I recommend that. You know, the price is high, but I believe this will be fairly, at worst case, correctly priced as a Nisai. It lost all its Benny at Mud Pond.
Ouch.
Every single bit of it gone.
Was that a hard one to explain?
Oh, big time.
Because obviously, naturally...
But that's again, that's Tategoi as well.
Yeah. Naturally, obviously, I've been in not too dissimilar scenarios there, and it really does put you in a pickle, doesn't it? Because obviously, it's happened time and time again with you, where you purchase fish and they don't work out, and that's your problem alone. But obviously, when you've moved them on to a client, it puts you in a real situation.
Luckily, in that scenario, again, it was at a farm where I knew worst case scenarios will be rectified, and it was rectified incredibly well. But even still, it's sort of like that whole dream that was bought and just come crashing down, and it's not cool, but it is a reality. That's why I don't often, the fish I do buy that I know that are Tategoi, so to speak, that I know there's elements of risk in them, but huge potential upsides. That's why I never sell them. I do sit on them until that potential is, 70-80% realised, or maybe fully realised.
Yeah, sure.
Because for me, it's just not worth. I don't want people to burden the risk. Don't happen too often, but certainly
there's
enough times.
A reality there, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's I mean, if you're a hobbyist getting into the game, and you're kind of hearing this word touted around, you would be forgiven for buying into it, wouldn't you? I mean, if someone of a seemingly high standing in the industry is saying this word means X, Y, Z, wow, must be good.
The one message I want everyone to take away from this is, if you see it, just ignore it. And it's not something to go chasing either. I've seen it happen in Japan as well, where you literally just got somebody walk into a fisher house and go, I want Tategoi.
Yeah, don't do that.
And my God. You're just literally telling a breeder you're ripe for being exploited.
Yeah, ripe for the plucking.
It's just insane. It's like I've seen that when people's gone, oh, we were a customer once and we were up at Kanskei, and I'd never met the bloke. First time I'd been. This, that main display pond, absolutely heaving it was. You couldn't see it bottom of the pond, incredible. And I never forget, he literally went, "What's the number one?" It's a little bit of a cringe.
It's a Western thing, isn't it?
That's number one's like the whole Tategoi thing. As soon as number one's sold, number two becomes number one. That's just the brutal cycle at breeders. They don't look at fish like that. No. And it didn't. He was sort of like, and I was just looking in this pond, and I just pointed this one fish out, and his Kanskei's face lit up. And he just went, "Oh, Kashira." And that, for me, that was where mine and his sort of friendship started. Because all of a sudden he knew we was on a sort of pegging. And it went from there. But I've seen people get hit hard for going into fish houses and asking for those things, because a lot of breeders are salespeople as well. And that's the sort of point to end on here as well, is that Tategoi part being sort of used and abused is the breeder's fault sometimes as well, because they understand how it's viewed and they can milk it sometimes. The danger of the milking it's probably innocently from their side, though they might use terms like, this could be Tategoi grade. It's that good. But it's not though, is it? Because you're selling it, and that is when them moments get picked, and that's just what that dealer at that moment wants to hear. And the next thing you know, bang, that's up as Tategoi. So just forget the word. Honestly,
judge the fish on the fish alone.
If you see that word and it's not attached to anything that's in the thousands of pounds, it's going to be a struggle to believe it, in my opinion. So there we have it.
Load of old twaddle then, mate.
I think so. Just one of them that needs sort of putting out there. It's very, if you look into it, like I was saying, you really get into seeing it in Japan. There's a lot of romance around it. You know, it's a great process, but ultimately we're just boiling down to looking at the quality of fish. That's it. End of.
There you have it. That was pretty
Honest.
decisive. Yeah, no. I think over the years it's probably caught quite a lot of hobbyists out, really, probably in the pocket as well. So yeah, I know there's loads written about this term, and in a nutshell, that's the status of that word, and try not to buy into it too much. So yeah,
happy days.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, short and sweet today, guys, but we'll be back again next week as always. If you've got any topics that you want us to discuss, then by all means drop us a message or an email, and yeah, I'll see you next time.